Hi everyone, Lynn here, and today I'm going to show you how to make the booklet insert for a hidden hinge type of album. Now if I'd actually thought about doing this before I put my pages into the hinge, it would have been a great idea, but I didn't. So it is what it is. This one actually sits on the part that pulls out. Okay, but here's my little booklet. And I can flip through all the pages, which is the main reason why I wanted to do this. And once I get to this side here, then it just flips over and I can keep going and going and going. So you can see that it's attached in here. I could have made it so it was attached to the base page, but like I said, I didn't think about that. One thing I did do wrong is I didn't quite center it, but hey, it is what it is. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to put this aside and I'll be right back. For me. Alright, so I used file folders for my album, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a file folder to make the hinge as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this to 2. Let me show you here. I'm going to cut it at the mark, at the mark just before the 3, which technically is 2 15/16. So basically you're leaving a little tiny bit of room, just a little shy of 3 inches, and that will make sense to you in just a minute. So let me make sure this is straight. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Alright, so this is my piece, and the back side is not pretty, but that's okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score. Alright, now if you look, alright, you can see right there that it's just a little bit smaller than 3 inches. And that's exactly what we want. And the reasoning for that is that when we fold our paper over, we're not going to have bulk. We don't want to do like we did on this one here. And let me take it out, the hinge, for the booklet. We don't want to have double bulk. But we do need a double bulk on the area that's going to get punched. But you don't want it on this side where it's going to be inserted into your album. So cutting it a little bit smaller is going to make that easy for us. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score. I'm going to score at 1 inch. Remember, a little bit smaller than 3. I'm going to score at 1 inch. And I'm going to score at 2 inches. Alright. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold. Alright, now the smallest one is what's going to get glued together. This is how it's going to go. This part here that doesn't have the second piece is going to glue into your base page. Now you can see, and let me fold it so you can see it a little bit better, and I will use a bone folder on that. Alright, you can see that where my fold is, where I'm going to be doing my punching, that it doesn't go right to the edge. So you're not going to have the extra bulk, and your page will still be able to move. Alright, I hope that makes sense. If you haven't seen the other video, you might be a little confused right now, but that's okay. It'll become clearer as we move along. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish my folds. Do you have this happen to you? You cut your paper, I don't know if you can see it or not, and when you're cutting it, it folds over on the edge. Alright, just run your bone folder along that, and that will remove that. And that's it. Alright, so now we're going to tape. Alright, so now, just so we can make it clear, and where's my pen? Right here. Alright. This is 1 inch. This is 1 inch. And this white. And this is 15/16 wide. This is the part that you're going to glue down. This is the part that goes into the base page. Alright? So we're going to be doing our punching in here. Alright, so let's go ahead and put some score tape down. So I'm lining it up as best as I can. And I want to go ahead and put my score tape just on this side of my fold. All right, that's very important. You don't want the added bulk inside in the fold itself. Now, we're going to be punching, and I know I haven't mentioned that. Okay, now we're going to be punching in between here. All right, so I need to leave some room so that my punching will happen in an area that has no tape on it. You don't want to punch through the tape. Your punch itself will get very sticky, and it will tear your paper is what it's going to do. All right, it won't give you as nice a finished look as you want. So I'm going to go from this fold line here, remember, on the 15/16 inch side, we're going to go a 1/2 inch in from the fold, and we're going to put another piece of tape. All right, so we're leaving basically a 1/4 inch in between, and that's wiggle room. Now I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to do the same exact thing on the 1 inch section. So I'm going to go right along the edge, but not touching my fold line. And I'm going to run my score tape. And if you want to use glue and you're really good at lining it up and making sure it's not going to go all over the place, you can do that. I am not that good, which is why I use score tape. All right, so a 1/4 inch. I should line this up a little bit better. 1/4 inch in, roughly. Okay. All right, so that's what that looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a piece of Tyvek in between the two. All right, it's going to go quite like that. So now this is 15/16, right? So I need to cut a piece of Tyvek smaller than that. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Kathy Orta's mini albums and video tutorials, you know what Tyvek is. This is Tyvek. It's actually a building material for those of you who don't know. But they also make envelopes out of this stuff. And as you can see from this side, and what I've shown in my other video, is that you cannot tear this stuff. All right? The only way to take a piece out of it is to cut. So we're going to go ahead and cut it. And I have a little tiny piece left over, so let's see if I can actually cut this right. Now, I said this small area is 15/16 of an inch. I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller than that. I'm actually going to go to 13/16, I believe. Well, you know what? No, I'm going to go a little bit smaller than that even. I guess I should try and line it up. I'm going to cut it at 3/4 inch. And this is going to be challenging because as soon as I let go, it's going to go crooked. All right, that's not too bad. So I'm going to cut it at 3/4 inch, roughly. Now, if you saw the last video, you'll notice that I didn't mention how long to cut this. However long your piece of paper is, just make sure that you have more than enough room for your booklet insert. Now, I'm going to use the one, where is it? Where did I put it? Okay, I'm going to use this one since I don't know where I put the other one right now. All right, I'm going to use this one. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So I'm going to use this one. You just leave yourself like 1 inch on either end because we want to trim it after the fact. Just make sure that you have enough room on either end. And I would say at least a 1/2 inch on either end. You don't have to measure it before you cut your piece. Leave it in the full length that it is. It's actually better if you leave it in the full length that your cardstock or cardboard, whatever, is. Because once you've inserted your Tyvek, you can actually get a clean cut on each end. And especially if your Tyvek isn't quite long enough to go all the way to the edge, you want to make sure that you have that Tyvek all the way to the end. That's what's going to give your piece strength. And let me show you with this example. This is from the previous video I just did. All right. I'm pulling on this. This is not going anywhere because you have Tyvek all the way through. And that's what's giving the paper the strength. I mean, you could let your kids play with that all day long. they're not going to tear through this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do before we even measure is we're going to go ahead and insert our little piece of Tyvek, like I just said. And because I have a tendency to make things crooked, I'm just going to pull back just my score tape just a little bit. And this is on the 15/16. This is on the narrow section. All right, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to line up my tape as best as I can, making sure that it's on this side of the score line. All right, you don't want it on the folded edge. All right, so you can see I didn't line it up very well. I have too much here, not enough there, which is what's great about cutting it after the fact. So once you've got this Tyvek in, then you can go ahead and remove the rest of your score tape. Now, we didn't put any on this part because that's what's going into your base page. Okay, come on now. All right, so now you can go ahead and fold it over. This is this narrow piece. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to trim your length. All right, so now how do we do that? Well, first of all, you need to know how tall your booklet insert is. Now, this one is 8 1/4 inches. I don't want to punch at 8 1/4. That's not going to be enough room. It's actually going to make it too tight to insert my booklet into it'll be too tight a fit. So what will end up happening is it'll tear my pages in here. So I need to allow myself a little bit of wiggle room, your piece of paper. And you also need a minimum of 1/4 inch on either end. Now you can go 1/2 inch if you want. If you have the length of your insert piece, you can go ahead and make it as long as your insert is. So, or as long as your paper is. That's up to you, but I'm going to go with the minimum just so that you can see how it works. So I've got the 8 1/4 inch booklet. I'm adding 1/4 inch, and then I need to add another 1/2 inch. So I need this to be 9 inches tall. So I'm going to cut this at 9 inches. Now, we already know that I don't have Tyvek on this end because it's over on this end. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off this side here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim this to 9 inches. And now I have a clean edge with Tyvek running all the way across. Okay, so then the next part is to go ahead and do the punching. All right. Now, before we punch, we want to measure again. Now, if you saw the last video, then you know that we need to make a mark. All right, just so it's easier than trying to eyeball it with punch on the little insert. So I'm going to use 3/8 inch because technically the width of the depth that the punch is going to go in is roughly 3/8 inch. So from the folded edge, I'm going to go in 3/8 inch that way and 3/8 inch that way. And like I said, I'm eyeballing. So I'm going to make a mark. And I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. Now, I might be a little off, and that's okay. It's really not going to show that much. So now that I have my mark, I'm going to go ahead and insert my punch, and I'm going to push it as far in as I can that way, and I'm going to keep it as straight as I can. And I'm going to do this and I was off by quite a bit on my mark, so I'm going to go a little bit higher here. Do the same thing here. So that's how you'll know. If I wasn't doing this in front, under a camera, it would be much easier for me to, to land. I could actually do this and then make my mark. All right, so can you see my punch? Can you see my mark? I'm going to go ahead and start punching just a tiny hair that way, just so that I can say that I can see the mark and a little bit of white space. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue punching, overlapping by about a third. And I'm going to do this all the way across. All right, now I'm going to come to this edge before I mess myself up and do the exact same thing. And then I will continue across. And again, I'm going to overlap by at least a third of this width. So I'm going to keep punching and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to show you something. Can you see these little tiny pieces of paper hanging out here? This is not my cardstock or file folder. This is actually the Tyvek inside. And this will happen if, one, you don't overlap properly, and also if you have sticky tape in that area. All right, it'll stick, and instead of punching properly, it'll just yank on the Tyvek and partially cut it. All right, so I only have a few, so that's not too bad. I'm just going to go ahead and take my fussy cutting scissors and trim those off. So that's why it's important that you put your tape far enough away so that it doesn't do that. Now, this is not a perfect line, okay? It's not going to be perfect no matter what kind of paper you use. Even on the chipboard itself, if I put this in here underneath it, you can see that it's not a perfect punch. That is actually not going to show in your finished album. All right, it's really not going to show that much. And if it bothers you, just go ahead and burnish it with your bone folder. And if you wanted to do a little bit more trimming on it, you can go ahead and do that. But that is the easiest way that I have figured out how to make a booklet insert for your album. So now let's see if our booklet will fit into this. All right, and it does. And does it? Yes. And I do have a little bit of wiggle room on each end. Now, if you didn't, all right, then go ahead and take your punch and just slightly punch on either end because you want it to be centered, right? Just go ahead and do a very slight punching just so that you can give yourself, and I would say at least 1/8 of an inch. This is a little bit more than that. All right, but you do need that wiggle room. Remember, if you don't have the wiggle room, it'll cause your pages to tear here. Okay, so now we have the main piece that we can go ahead and insert into our albums. All right, since I didn't think about this ahead of time, that I wanted to add an insert in here, and it's because my album pages are done and inserted into the Hinge, I can't go back and put it inside. Obviously, that would be, I would have to take at least one page apart. I'm not going to do that. So I can go ahead and now, if I wanted to, just go ahead and lay it flat on another page. All right, so I would just be adding my score tape here and gluing it down and then covering it with my paper. And obviously, I would either do it there or I could do it on the back side like here. I have a plain back right here. I could do it here. This is, a pull out. So I could go ahead and add centering my piece right here. And now my booklet, let's get the booklet in there. All right, would actually go like this. And now I can still look at my booklet page by page without having it to pull it out of a pocket or having it actually glued to the book itself. Okay, so I'm back. I hope that my instructions were clear enough to you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them below. I will answer your questions or as best as I can. Also, if you're interested in seeing the one for the ring binder, which is a little bit different, I posted that video just before this one. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.